Good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to be preaching a sermon titled Holy and Hurting on the topic between the crossroads of holiness and pain. And to start us off, I am going to be reading an excerpt from my journal. And I hope that it impacts you in the way that it impacted me. And I just hope that you can keep your hearts and minds open to what the Lord is trying to do through this today. June 11th, 2025. You're bipolar. 2 words that pierced through me faster than any cut or jab I'd ever heard. Tears welled up in my eyes. Do you have any questions? The psychiatrist asked, sitting across from me with sad eyes and a soft smile. How do you feel hearing that? She continued. All I could muster the strength to say was scared. My whole life I've battled my own mind, grappling with seasons of depression so deep I felt the enemy clawing for my soul. They'd come in waves, some swelling larger than others, but eventually I'd make it to shore and gasp for air. The waves would recede, and for a while, I'd be on cloud 9, ready to conquer anything in my path. Then the tide would rise again. But this was earth-shaking. My whole world felt as if it had collapsed in on me. So that's why I felt this way my whole life? This is the cause of my constant battle between suffering and ecstasy? You're bipolar, translated in my ears to you're broken. Like really broken, like crazy pants, unlovable broken. The psychiatrist scooted forward in her chair. I'm going to start you on some medication. Hopefully we can get you feeling better. I nodded. She looked around for some tissues and tried to offer words of reassurance. It's okay. Lots of people have bipolar disorder. It's going to be a journey, but you'll figure it out. Figure it out? What was there to figure out? My whole world had just come to a screeching halt. How is this possible? How could I be so fundamentally broken that my own mind could betray me and skew my entire reality? In the days that followed, I fell into a deep darkness. My emotions felt too heavy, too wild to control, and I broke down more and more. My best friend told me to go home to my parents. She couldn't handle me alone, she said, adding, I'm going through stuff too. She didn't mean to isolate me, but in that moment, the belief that I was truly broken, truly alone, and truly unlovable came flooding in fast and sank deep into my being. Like this disease, this diagnosis was all that I am, as if my very presence was now tarnished by something I couldn't control. It's not my fault. I repeated it over and over, trying and failing to find the language to explain that I needed someone. I can't do it alone, please. I sat with myself, realizing this was forever. I could no longer tell myself it's just a season, because even if it was, there would be another, and another, and another after that. The people around me tried to comfort me in the only way they knew how, assuring me it would get better and that I would learn to manage it, and in part, I knew they were right. This would be a rigid path, a painful one, and as the days go by, it may seem smoother and the pain more worn in. But right now, I'm on my hands and knees, palms pressed into the gravel, gripping the sand in an attempt to gain traction. Every inch feels like a mile, and all I want to do is lay down and give up. It's as if I can see myself, happy and healthy, but it's so far away, it feels impossible that I'll make it there alive. When I was 22 years old, I was diagnosed with bipolar II disorder. In other words, in my mind then, I was given a spiritual death sentence. Christians aren't bipolar. There was no arguing that. Only broken people are bipolar, not me. I was given a name for the struggle I'd held so silently my whole life. The pain that had been festering in my soul, taking over my very being for almost 10 long years. Part of me was relieved. Hearing the words that validated I wasn't imagining it, wasn't being dramatic. Then came the fear. What will everyone think? Then the sorrow. I really am broken, fundamentally broken. How will I ever be worthy of love now? Thoughts came rushing over me. My mind wandered into the darkest places, like flies washing over me, whispering I'd never be whole again. Wet cheeks and raw eyes became abnormally normal in the weeks that followed. The process of relearning who I was became one full of mourning and anger. Fiery questions began to spill out of me, directed at the God I had so loved before. Where was God in this? It wasn't enough that I struggled so painfully. Now there were words that defined me, dangling in the space between my heart and mind, words that could never be retracted, a label that could never be unheard. I had no language for the confusion I was experiencing. The only sounds I heard surrounding my situation were whispers from darkness. No pulpit holders, no praise singers, no voices of light were speaking to what I now held as mine. I was lost, battling the idea that I would never again fit comfortably in a church pew. It was not lost on me that I had a God who loved me, but as I began unfolding the corners of the beliefs stitched deep into my soul, I realized the lies I had clung to as truth. Brokenness is inherently unholy, and if I'm broken, God is not good. How could I pursue holiness with such a broken mind? How could I serve a God who saw my desire to pursue holiness and left me with a broken mind? I was a victim of happenstance, watching as my whole understanding of the world, my whole foundation of faith, was crushed under the weight of shame. My thoughts were not your typical, oh, I'm a sinner in need of a savior. They were deeply calculated. I wrestled with the question, how can there be good in this? How can there be holiness in such brokenness?